10 years ago, I had no goals. I was living paycheck to paycheck and was in tens of thousands of dollars of debt. But fast forward to today, and I was able to surpass a $1 million net worth. I wasn't lucky, but instead I taught myself to be more financially disciplined, and it all started understanding these 7 hacks. So with that said, we'll just get right into the first hack, budgeting for your financial goals. You have financial goals, right? But you're probably not reaching them. Why? Because you're setting yourself up to fail. Here's what many people do with their finances every month. Let me know if this resonates. You pay off all your regular expenses for the month. Okay, that's great. But then at the end of the month, you look and you're like, oh, wow, I haven't applied any money to my financial goal, my debt, my whatever. And the goal keeps getting pushed off every single month. But this cycle keeps happening. Why? Because you haven't changed your habit, but you want a different outcome, a different result. So here's what I want you to do. Here's some tactics that you can do to change this habit. After I'm done here, pause the video, write down the things that are most important to you. There could be financial goals, life goals, whatever the thing is, whatever's most important to you. After you have that list, go back 3 months for your expenses and actually look at where your money's going. You're gonna be able to see very quickly if your money is or is not aligned with those financial goals. And if this is your first time doing it, let me spare you the suspense here. It's not going to be aligned with your financial goals or your life goals, okay? And that's totally fine because we can still change the process. Like there's still time, we're still living, so we can change what we're doing with our money. It's not set in stone. So for example, if you're in a ton of debt and you wrote that down as one of your goals, like, oh, I want to pay off my debt, I want to be, debt free. My assumption is that you'd want to prioritize your money a little better to make this happen every month. And that way it's not a reactionary thing, but you're being proactive. Just to be honest with you, this will not be perfect. It's going to be frustrating the first month, 2 months, whatever. But then you get in a habit and you kind of get into a rhythm, which brings me to the next hack to help you become more financially disciplined. Get some freaking self-control. I was working with someone, we were reviewing his budget, and I came across an expense category called retail therapy. And I honestly had no idea what that was. So I was like, hey, what is that? He basically summarized it as if he ever gets sad or anxious in his life, he gives himself permission to buy something that would cheer him up and make him happy. Now, I'm all for that, right? Doing things that make us happy, mental health. That's literally the reason why I work out every day. I'm not trying to be some muscle man or ripped or whatever. It's just like my happy place, and I get a sweat on. I have the best thoughts that I have. Like my mind is so clear, so I totally understand that. But creating a system where you give yourself permission, where every time you have an emotion, it triggers something, and in this case, it's a negative thing, you're just buying junk, it's a little dangerous. And I think this is why a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, are in crippling debt, because they don't have a system set up for their finances. They just go off of their emotions, their feelings, the which way the wind is blowing. And now he had hundreds of dollars a month in this category. So when he did the 3-month look back, it was like 300 something, 400 something, 200 something. It was all over the place. And when I asked him the kind of stuff that he bought, because again, it just said retail therapy, he thought for a second. He's like, I honestly don't remember. So to him, his goal was to feel happy, but what it was actually doing was just completely destroying his finances and honestly destroying his future just because he had no self-control in the moment. And when things felt hard or sad, he just pulled out his credit card, bought a thing off Amazon, and moved on with his day. So let's create an environment of how to reach our financial goals, a system. We want to set up a system, remove our emotions, right? Because we want facts, we want data, we don't want feelings, which transitions perfectly into the next hack. Financial struggles are not permanent. Once I realized that I was in control of my finances and the outcomes that would come from it, I knew just how powerful that was, and I knew that I was the only one that would be able to change anything, fix anything, control it. No more blaming others or outside factors or pointing the finger. There are many, many people in this world that are winning with their personal finances, so that just means that anyone can do it. If other people are, you can. Why not? I see it too often when I'm talking to people about their personal finances, like the limiting beliefs that these people have, that they're not going to win. It's kind of sad, right? They don't think that they can make more income. They don't know how to make more income. They think that being in debt is just a way of life. They think that they don't know how to get out of debt. And quite honestly, it's why I make these videos. I need to chip away at your limiting beliefs one person at a time. So over 5 years ago, when my wife and I were paying off the $43,000 in 13 months, we pretty much both looked at each other. We're like, what are we doing? What? We're just being really lazy with this, okay? and we're just making normal payments. Like, why aren't we being more aggressive? Like, this is hurting our finances. Being in debt should not be seen as ordinary, okay? So I want you to get that out of your head right now. And it wasn't just about, hey, let's do this so we can become debt free and then we're done. It was, let's become debt free so we can use that money towards better, greater, more efficient financial goals, like saving for retirement. Now we have 2 kids, okay? So we're trying to put money aside for them, right? The 4th hack that helped me become more financially disciplined was finding an accountability partner. When my wife and I were paying down $43,000 worth of debt in 13 months, we had a literal debt meeting that lasted 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of each month on our couch in our living room. We had to make sure that everything was aligned because I had debt that was just mine, she had debt that was just hers, and then we had shared debt. It was like a complete mess. We started the process having 2 different bank accounts, and then we transitioned to 1 bank account. And the goal of those meetings was to prioritize the certain debts, and we had to make sure we were communicating because, again, there was all these accounts and it was kind of confusing. So we didn't want like one person to use up all the money for their thing when it wasn't the priority, right? So we just wanted to talk it through. How much are we paying for each of the debts that month? And how do we keep being intentional with our spending? And I'm actually so confident in the process that I made a free course showing you how to find more money in your finances so that you could pay down your debt 2 times faster. How does that sound? Which brings me to the next hack to help you become more financially disciplined. Budgeting has nothing to do with restriction, everything to do with intention. I'm going to keep shouting this one from the rooftops and maybe someone will hear me. I think that this is actually such a misconception when it comes to finances and budgeting, and I think it's the sole reason why the majority of you don't do it. Everyone wants the feeling of being free, right? No one wants to be restrictive. No one wants to think about what a smaller lifestyle would look like or cutting back expenses would look like. But the truth is, a budget doesn't tell you what you can't do. It actually tells you the opposite. It tells you what you can do with your money. Budgeting equals intentionality. Budgeting shows you where you're spending your money, and you can quickly see if where your money's going is aligned to a financial goal or a life goal. Similar to the I have no time argument, it's one of those things where if you're not tracking it, you don't care about it, no matter what you say. So let your financial goals and your life goals guide your money decisions. This also means, by the way, that you can add money to a certain expense category that you feel like you're not spending enough in. So the example I like to give is, let's say you have a gym membership and it costs you $25 and you look at where your spending's going, you're making like $5K a month, right? And you're looking like, wow, I'm only spending $25 a month on my health and fitness. Like I need to double this, triple this somehow. Like it's such an important thing for me. Okay. So that's just a reframe that I want you to think, because again, budgeting is not restrictive. It's just a way to flow your money to the things that are most important to you. And at the end of the day, you're a product of where your money goes, which transitions perfectly into the next hack. Our life is a result of how we use our time. This is one of the most important shifts that I made, because once you understand that everyone has the same 24 hours, it's like, oh, well, if these people are doing it, so can I. And how we choose to use those 24 hours is a reflection of not only our current being, but what we're going to look like in 5-10 years, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. One of my first jobs out of college, I was a compensation analyst, right? So it was skill adjacent to the accounting field, but not exactly an accounting job. Anyway, I was in my manager's office. She was giving me all these projects, blah, blah, blah. And for some reason I said out loud, I was like, wow, I am way too busy for you to be giving me all these projects, right? I'm a young 20-year-old kid and I'm telling my boss that I'm too busy. Like looking back, it's so stupid. Anyway, so she looked at me, she smiled. She's like, okay, how about this? Why don't you go back to your desk, and for the next couple of days, as you're doing your work, you just also do this little time audit on the side, and you don't need to show it to me. This isn't to like get you in trouble or anything like that. It's more for you. I want you to see this. So I go back to my desk. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I'm walking back, I'm muttering, I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't have time for all these projects. And now she wants me to like track my time as well. Like this is the dumbest thing. But half a day goes by. I go back to her office. I knock on the thing and I'm like, you were right. Thank you. This showed me a lot. She looked back, smiled. She said, thank you. And I was like, I'll have these projects to you by XYZ, right? But it was the whole point of I wasn't being intentional with my time, and not that I was like goofing off, but I was like not focusing on the most high priority item. So not only was my time not optimized, but when you start tracking it and you start looking at it, you take way different actions, right? Because you don't want to be the person that writes down like, oh, yep, 10 to 11, I was watching sports clips from last night, right? It's like, no, you don't want to look lazy to yourself. So you, instead of doing the bad thing in that time, you find a more productive thing to do there during that time. That way, 10 to 11, oh, cool, I was updating my finances. Yes. So based on that story and my experience with this, my recommendation to you is write down all the goals and important things in your life. Then start tracking your time during the day to see where exactly you're spending your time. And again, you don't have to show me, right? This isn't to get you in trouble. It's just I would block like, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, however you want to do it, and just kind of see what you're doing. So basically, if the thing is important to you and you're not spending any time on it, then that just means you need to change your inputs. You need to be putting a little more time and effort and thought into it. The number 7 hack to become more financially disciplined: delaying gratification for bigger goals. When I started to make a little more money in my career, I was trying to find ways to, put $100 towards a thing and then have it return me $1,000 at the end of the week or the month. It's pretty intriguing, right? And are people doing this today? Yeah. And to each their own, right? Whatever. But for me, my goals have just shifted to be a completely longer time horizon. I'm willing to sacrifice today for a better tomorrow. And that doesn't just mean personal finances, right? It means fitness, the skills that I'm learning, right? So when I'm doing a workout, it's way easier to not do a workout. I could just sit on the couch, but I'm going to be in pain today so that I'm set myself up for decades down the line. That's what we have to start thinking about. We have to start thinking in decades. I like to think of this as someone who's traveled to a very big city that they've never been before. Instead of looking up and seeing the hustle and the bustle of the city, the tops of the skyscrapers, you're just looking down at your shoes the whole time. That's what this is. Look up. There's way more to this world, to your life, than, in the now. So when you're looking at your shoes, you're looking in the now. When you're looking up, you're looking into your future. And think about yourself 10 years ago. You probably hopefully changed a lot. Now, imagine yourself in 10 years from now. So where you were 10 years ago to now to then, how much did you change in that last 10 years? And then how much do you think you'll change in the next 10 years? Just like money, time compounds too. So if you're going like this the last 10 years, guess what? The next 10 years are going to look like this. Like, you have to really just start planning ahead, and the habits that you put forward now are really going to compound on themselves. It's so easy to talk to someone and see, who's going to be winning and who's putting their priorities towards, the financial goals. Because it's so obvious when there's people that are not intentional with their time or their money, right? They're on the Netflix 3 hours a night. And the people that are not aligning their spending with their goals, they're just not going to win. The actions you take today are going to shape your future, finances or otherwise. Speaking of bigger goals, it's almost impossible to reach a significant financial goal without understanding your finances. The only way to do that, from my experience, is to track them. Here are the 7 steps to build a perfect budget that you will actually be able to stick to.